Director Report.
Let's put the food on my quick.
Jay's update, unsurprisingly, about the Waterloo Works interface change. Yeah, I mean,
Marianne says you are live, so go for it.
Oh. Good afternoon. It is March 25th. That's the day before our annual members meeting. And we're going to try and squeeze a cheeky little normal board meeting in, the Twix. It is time for preliminaries. We're calling to order. We have a agenda to be approved. There are quite a number of things here. And I know that we have two members of the board of directors that would like to add an additional item. And neither of them are here to talk about it. But I think before we approve the agenda, we should at least do a once over to see if it makes sense or if it's too similar to a motion at the general meeting tomorrow, sorry, members meeting tomorrow to consider. So if you're a member, if you're online and you haven't seen it yet, take a look. Let me see if I can give you a brief overview. So the rest of the agenda looks normal. Actually, before we move to that, does anybody have comments about the rest of the agenda for now?
Motion for orientation fee on sent.
Thank you. There is an orientation fee motion that I think you saw a while back. It was I got an email about it. I'm realizing I don't think I saw. Oh no, I did sort it at the right place. Orientation budget. Wonderful. I love it. Past me did this properly. Yes, the orientation budget. We have a request to add orientation stuff because it's off cycle. So this is one of the activities. And then the other item is to start. Is the what is this actually saying? To issue the next available director honorary period reflecting the second report hours. To enforce last month's time tracking, I think. Am I reading that correctly?
Sorry, what have we asked?
That there be a resolve would be about enforcing time tracking in arrear.
From February 26th to March 24th?
Yes.
For our foreign board members?
Yes.
Yes.
Your pay would be affected right now.
Indeed it would.
Oh, what a motion. So technically it's different than Roy, sure?
Okay, sure. I'll consider that different enough. Do people feel like it is germane to have on the agenda though?
No reason why it can't be on the agenda, I guess.
Do you want it there? But like being fancy about it. Do we think that there's been enough time for you to consider it?
These people are.
And given that it is we learned about it at the start of the board meeting and it is
My only issue is that
Keep them from.
here's my time tracking.
Did not screw.
I only started tracking right from the floor.
There's only two people can vote on this. So
Back.
which I mean we could talk about it in discussion motion. Should we discuss it?
to begin with.
Sorry, Mike.
Sorry.
See if he's in favor.
Sorry, I can hear a couple of conversations because Aria and Esther and Nick and Alex were talking. So
Apologies.
no, that's okay.
Suzanne, I think you have the floor.
I just actually had a question for you, Mike, in terms of, have we put through the honorariums for this time frame already? The payroll?
We have not. Documents need to be submitted by Thursday of this week.
Okay. Wanted to double check.
So Alex, do we want to talk about this as well as directors online? I think as an officer, I'm not tracking hours. So
I don't know if it's true. I do want to bring a point up. This motion will put everybody at the board in conflict of interest except me and Nick.
good point.
So that's a conversation to definitely.
Like, hey, you want to have this discussion? So
It's just
sorry.
And is that a fair thing for us to decide? Or like, you want to decide that? You know what I mean? So, think about that as you.
Because whether or not you were tracking hours, if you already tracked hours, then this is nothing. And if you didn't track hours, then you're immediately in conflict where you like your own interest would be. I think there's a lot of conflict stuff here.
Well, I mean, we did all agree. We did agree at the end of the meeting, because I remember at the last meeting.
Oh, you
I
did.
messed up and didn't. So I remember we did say we would
did.
track this month.
Well, this reads from February 26th to March 24th.
And I just tracked from the 4th to the 24th, but there is also in here submitted no later than, like, I can go back and figure out how many hours I did from the 26th to the.
Again, it's so messy.
The higher level guys.
This is what we asked for.
I think there might be too much conflict with this motion, but I actually wouldn't mind putting this to a vote, not based off of the context of this motion, but whether or not we think there's conflict going on, and it's just too complicated to handle.
That's an objective answer, right?
Is that object? Okay, you know what? I don't like it. I think that there's not enough time to consider, and I don't think there is enough time to also work through conflict aspects.
If we won't have another chance though to do this,
You have April.
the new board.
So you have April. Oh, as in the sense of, will they be paid for April?
Like, I don't think we have time to roll this over.
If you want to move it to April, then you would have that conversation at the April meeting, right?
Right, but
But at that time, they won't have been paid yet for April.
again, I think it's a very gimmicky, like, there's nothing against, like, I get it. I get why the motion, not to debate the motion, but like, also think about the situation, like, okay, whatever. We the agenda, put it on the agenda.
Okay, we did task governance committee though to do this. And this is,
We tasked him to do this.
this is the idea of what we want to do. This has been toyed with for a year. Now we did it. I did my tracking from the 4th to now.
Okay.
So that puts me in conflict of interest for doing what we said we were going to do at the last meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is,
What's your
Weird.
conflict? It doesn't matter.
though we can always, we're able to change the time period to be, I think my issue is with it being in arrears, but if it wasn't focused on past, which was supposed to be tracking time.
I think this will be an interesting conversation.
Sure, you know what?
Okay, put it on the agenda. It's clearly it's an agenda conversation. Okay.
I feel like we're going to have to do reasonable conversation, even if it's not exactly what this looks like. Further discussion, especially from online people, because I feel like in the room, we've kind of settled on, let's actually talk about this, even if we don't pass the motion. Discussion from online crew about Teresa and Jeff's motion. Seeing none, I'm going to suggest that we pass the agenda with at 4.4 is orientation budget and 4.5 to be the notice motion from Jeff.
Presentation stuff, I think.
Never mind, you're right. Actually, that makes more sense to put earlier.
All right.
No.
Okay.
Never mind.
It shouldn't have been. Yeah, it's safe to be.
Okay.
Right? Like it feet.
Yeah. Sorry, yes. So 4.4, 4.4, 4.5.
Lord.
Sorry, that took a little bit. Any further discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. All in favor of the agenda with the additional 2 motions in open session. All right. All against the agenda with the additional 2 motions in open session. And Fatima, I think, still has her hand up for the previous vote. Actually, I'll ask you. Oh, yeah. Never mind. And all abstentions on the agenda. Yeah. Maricini, how are you voting? Oh, you're here. That makes sense. Okay. We didn't see it. Maricini, how are you voting on the agenda? What's your agenda vote?
Let's see, I just said.
Okay, okay, sorry. Yeah, it's not registered.
My hand wasn't raising. Oh, it's closed.
Okay. With that, let us actually start talking. Board of Directors. of the Waterloo Undergraduate Student Association. Acknowledge that the University of Waterloo is on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Organization operates on the Haldeman Tract, which is land promised to the Six Nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. One of the things I've been learning about recently are some course changes that involve trying to do more Indigenous ways of knowing, particularly in self-study courses and graduate courses where that's integrating relatively well. Often that sort of student-driven path of discovery works really well with Indigenous knowledge bases, and that's been a nice thing to see, as well as some experimentation with undergraduate courses, particularly in upper years, where you're doing project courses, and that's a positive pathway for the university to be taking to add indigenization without sort of maybe losing some of the Oxford model that we're otherwise based on. That's my brief additional minute to the acknowledgement. We have minutes from previous 2 meetings this time. Any discussion on the previous 2 minutes? Sorry, yes, the February bonus and the actual February meeting. All right. I'm not noticing any. We'll take the vote on minutes of the 2 meetings. All in favor of the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm abstaining, and that's every vote. There's no one against. Okay. Next up, we have the board priorities. Today, we decided that we should be strengthening advocacy, ensuring accountability, and ensuring accountability for the organization. Conflict of interest declaration. That's really bad. Conflict of interest declaration. So just a reminder, the items for today are transition discussion, teaching awards, SAC, orientation, and the one that I think almost everyone is in some way conflict on, except for me, because you're an incoming board. Oh wait, no, it
doesn't affect the, but I think everybody here should.
Yeah, it will be. I'm expecting a declared conflict from everybody that isn't ARIA on 4.5. Is anyone say that they're not in conflict for 4.5? Wonderful. We'll deal with it when we get there. With that, I don't think we have consent agenda today. I don't think we have presentations today. Aria,
Yes.
you have the first item of business, which is board transition.
Of course I do. Of course I do. Board transition. How exciting. I put them on agenda so ahead of time, I lose track sometimes. So new board is coming in. I wanted to put this in because I wanted board's consent to not only have the incoming board come to our April meeting, where we're going to pass annual plan and the budget. So they'll be sorted, AGM will be finished, they'll have confidentiality and all that fun stuff. But also I think it's beneficial to have an outgoing incoming board like moments where like there's a meeting where folks can pass knowledge and information, and they can have, all of us as a group with them, so we can have those conversations and make sure that they get some knowledge of what it means to be a member of the board and to balance their hours and learn a little. If board has appetite, I don't think it even needs to be a motion. Like Esther's team can just reach out and book those. But I'm asking them to be clear, for them to be invited to the April board meeting. And I'm asking them for a meeting to be set that hopefully meets most people's availability. So we can have some type of transit. It could even be online. Like it doesn't even need to be, So that's what I'm asking for. And yeah. Unless there's anything else folks also think we should do with them as they come in.
This came up yesterday evening at OCC as well.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if yes, Jeff, right. Jeff brought it up. And also to tie in, a good idea of inviting interested board members to OCC's meeting in April. Not like as a big thing, but for those who can come, get to see OCC as well as, so maybe that would be a good thing to do across the other committees too as well. Sure, if that's the place, maybe governance, advocacy, have them come in and sit if they want to.
Very contentious.
Very useful to us.
Where's Emma going?
Please call.
This is a discussion item, which is convenient.
Thank God, right?
Yeah, because otherwise.
All of this. Oh, it's because her bus has gone into a Wi-Fi less zone. So continuing discussion while we wait for Emma to get back to Wi-Fi before I have to make decisions.
Oh, there
There it is. Yeah. All right. I don't want to drink it. So the encouragement is reaching out to the incoming board members to let them know that they are invited to the next board meeting. Anything else on that for now? Is that what you were hoping this discussion would bring up, or is there anything else you're looking for?
No, it's just there's knowledge sharing, right? So there's institutional knowledge.
That's fine. I'll also comment that for Rem and Damien, me and Arya have been talking with them. Damien was also at long range planning on Friday, which of course you know, and of course you know, and of course you know. And so actually, I don't know who I'm updating because everybody was there. So, all right. We're still in quorum, which is good. Are we okay to move on, Arya?
All good with
Wonderful. I'm sorry it took a little bit to actually get the text of what I would like board to discuss. But in terms of teaching and mental wellness awards, if you can find the document that I shared with you yesterday, which is titled Carrots Not Sticks, 3AC2 Pilot Teaching and Wellness Awards. The sort of overview here is that we've been through some of our committees working with societies on helping them set up some teaching awards. And we have the higher level WUSA teaching award. But it would be nice as well to have a lower level, less high stakes, sort of just convenient teaching one. And part of this has come from, thank you very much, Mike. Part of this has come from my interaction with the tenure and promotion committees and seeing how teaching awards could be beneficial to making positive decisions, which was nice to see. So 3AC already sort of wrote out a vague idea of what the criteria they were expecting to look like. You have the example questions, 3AC producing a short list. It's with 3AC for the teaching aspect, but I've also noted later on that board can go in and change who's adjudicating it when it makes sense to, if it makes sense to. Putting the three nominees for each type of award: mental wellness and teaching, going to the appropriate associate chair or chair as relevant to get more feedback from their students, and then using that additional feedback to be the decision maker. As well, making it clear that while you can be shortlisted infinite times, each award winner can only be a recipient one time. So this was the discussion that we had at 3AC. We've set up some Google Forms, and I would like to get the blessing of the board of directors for this to become sort of a multi-year project sort of thing. Currently, the resources are relatively minimal in terms of operations because there's no additional funding. It's a committee-run thing. For the future, I think it would be a good position for the vice chair of 3AC to handle logistics, and if it needs to interact with marketing. But for this year, it's kind of running itself. But yeah, I'm kind of asking for forgiveness rather than permission on this one. All right.
I have there's just a couple of questions, I guess. Like one of them is why vice chair, but I guess that's a minor question, like why not the chair? Technical things, I'm just pulling out.
Sorry, I should ask for a seconder on this before we.
Oh, okay.
So this is the motion. Can I have a seconder? Alex, thank you. Arya, continue.
So my first question is like why the vice chair? Second question is like how are submissions being done? I mean, like this is a good rough like draft, but like for example, we could if we want to do these awards, we could like the WUSA Teaching Awards already has a network problems. Like we already get a lot of nominations through that, so we could just alter whoever There's ways to streamline stuff. So I'm just thinking like maybe it's good to give this to staff to like go and try to find those areas of where the nominations come from. Where do we get some of the other nitty bitties because it does need to be developed. And my only question is if we're going to run it for this academic year and not like next academic year, we have like 1 month left. So how do we know it's really quality? Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe it's better to run it next academic year. Like that's it, do it. But
Okay.
it's further along.
We're already receiving some applications and stuff because the
Okay.
societies are distributing this.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, yeah, I'm asking for forgiveness rather than permission. So the idea with vice chair being that to more evenly divide the work between chair and vice chair.
Okay.
But I'm happy with that being changed. If not, disagree with me. I think you're right that for more complicated changes, there's also an aspect here that governance committee is given the opportunity, if they have time, to actually go through and put more work into detail, and whether that means using staff resources as well to say pull from teaching awards. So this doesn't lock it in permanently. It's just saying it starts with 3AC. There's one point that Esther wanted me to bring up here as well, that unlike usual, I thought it was appropriate because this is an award that once whatever group it is, whether it's 3AC or in the future a different party is tasked with it, board may not change winners and shortlists, which is not usual for a committee of board. Normally we have the ability to go in, but I feel like when it comes to an award, that doesn't make sense. So that is the one warning that Esther encouraged me to provide.
I would also say, like, I'm just speaking now, if there's nobody else. I would say, like, board, we have the WUSA one, the teaching, the leadership one. Board doesn't interfere in any of those. No should board. Like, it should just be data driven, right? Like, students nominate and whoever is the best one. Like we guys, I agree. Like, board shouldn't really have a say. I do have a question about what does AAW above, and what is the word yardstick doing in there? Sure.
Just back on that. And that's generally yes. However, they can slide in the word if they felt that there was a need to. And so I'm just wondering whether the word generally in front of that would be amenable. So again,
I think that's friendly.
the idea is
Friendly, Alex.
that you don't, but like if for any reason. Okay.
I don't think that would ever interfere.
All right, consider that a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Not be able to.
Cool.
I've lost my train of thought.
Is this, sorry. Cool. So I was asking about AAW, what that's.
Sorry. Yes, that's the also whereas. and whereas. So it's the section there that says before governance committee comes up with an actual terms of reference, the discussion that we had, which is the sort of these are the questions we're going to ask. This is how we're going to run it. That is the sort of what we're comparing ourselves to, and until such time as a proper terms of reference, blah, 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 all the procedures are written. If we're drifting too far, then the vice chair gets to decide whether or not we're holding ourselves to account.
Okay, cool.
Which
I think it's
that's just a fun little, hey, let's make this the responsibility of the vice chair anyway.
I think it's good to develop these awards actually. I think it puts an academic incentive and builds on that area. We need more academic incentives. I'm not too familiar with like how it like what's the criteria, but I think that's so technical. Board doesn't need to know. Like they could figure that out, right? So
yeah,
that's all my questions.
That's fine. Any additional discussion? Great. I'm not seeing any. So we'll take the vote. All in favor of the formalization? And I think that is unanimous, so we don't have to do the rest. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda for today is another one for me, which is about SAC stuff. Actually, I should grab another.
Let's do. Are my feet purpling?
This is actually yeah, it could maybe actually. So we're going to do this a little bit more freeform because it's not an actual discussion, but also because it's kind of weird. Oh, sorry, Fatima, did you have something to say, or is your hand just still up?
Sorry, my hand's still up. Confirmation.
SX not confidential. One moment.
I wouldn't.
Didn't think of SX about this. I know it's not
That's confidential.
open, but I didn't think it was.
The last meeting, I was never, I wasn't sitting there.
Those are confidential. Okay, then. Well, we could just do like.
But I.
We can move this discussion to confidential if we
And
have
you can
to.
move it back out if you want. Want to start it and all.
I think confidential as in people who are not on SAC can find out, or confidential as in the general.
So I think while we're waiting, I'll put the general question because that is public, which is the university is in a bit of a deficit, but a budget deficit.
Jeez, I need you to smile. There we go. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Budget deficit. And as a result, some of the ancillary services are being paid for through the SAC fee. That's the Student Services Advisory Committee fee. The groups that are there are the Center for Career Development. We have athletics, campus wellness, the Student Success Office, the Writing and Communications Center. And am I missing any? Very cheating here on that, Zach.
Probably a few more, but I'll pull it up. Hold on.
Okay. There are a lot of them is the short answer. And they're all joint funded. And that funding rate is pretty fixed. However, there's been some questions that have come up because as the provost has asked departments within the university to cut back funding, 4%, 7%, it varies. It varies a little bit. It's mostly 7. Some of them are 4. Hey, CE went up 4%, so I don't know how we feel about that one. But we're now at a sort of an interesting crossroads because what happens to SSAT funded units? So the provost for now has asked them to cut, but going into the next year, we have to make some decisions about what sort of expectations students have in terms of service delivery. Whether or not we're expecting cuts, whether or not we're expecting to take on additional funding. Do we change the funding split? Do we simply insulate them from these cut decisions, as well as understanding that there are some efficiency benefits from cuts? The discussion at SAC, we won't go into details until I find out from Suzanne whether or not we should. Seems like many of these services took the 4% cut and had a very serious look at their finances, but they would expect substantial service reductions going forward with an additional cut. So the 4% they sort of viewed as a little pep in their step, but an additional 4% would mean pretty substantial cuts. One service, which we won't list yet, has seen a 67% reduction in service already from 4%, which seems shocking. I don't know how that happened, but 67% of student-facing support is gone from 4% cut, which is pretty substantial.
Two stuff. Like, what is happening?
Theirs was because the way that they were running their service meant that they were part-time staff, but they were then able to cut. But then that meant that the student-facing hours would cut severely. Because so almost all their student service like facing hours were like 1 or 2 people.
Yeah, let's put the confidence and talk about this then. I think.
Is that all the background about SAC that we need for generic? SSO termly. Where's the SAC conversation? SAC.
I think I would do it in confidential. Let's find out because there's nothing on here to tell me that except
Okay.
for none of the minutes.
All the secretary. Anyone?
However, there are certainly some strategic aspects. So
Yeah, so I think it would be.
that's the overview. But now there's some decision making and it is finances. I don't think it's an issue having it in open, but do people prefer confidential?
Just for the sake of not pissing them off too much, I would say go confidential.
Okay.
And if we find that it's not, then we'll just make this public. Like, we'll just make it public.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they're not good.
Sure. Let's for safety reasons, I think we've been reasonable. But we can hop over.
I'll find that out.
Mike, let me know. In theory, 4.4. Yeah. Theoretical 4.4.
Yeah. It's
Sweet.
This one is not the we have 3 things that were late. This
We
is
are
the-
now back out of confidential.
Hello, Nush. We're back. Welcome. We continue to talk about SAC things. And for the next board meeting, we will hopefully have some ideas about what sort of data-driven decision making we might want to see come forward from SAC in the future to help support SAC decisions on unit direction and other sort of goals. So we'll reconvene some of the SAC discussion at the next board meeting, ideally with the incoming board also present, so that we can have more continuity if they are the ones who are actually going to be having the discussion at SAC itself next year. With that, we're moving on to the orientation budget approval. Brian has submitted this. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Alex is moving. Marcini is seconding. Ideally, you've had time to review the orientation fee budget. I'm assuming Alex and Marcini are not the correct people to ask questions of. So if people have questions about the budget, now is a good time to ask Brian. All right.
What has changed from this year compared to last year in this budget? That is first answer.
It's a great question. The largest piece from last year versus this year is you'll see it in our planned efficiency in net operating dollars here. Last year, there was an ad hoc motion that came forward partway through of chatting about what a marquee event would look like and how we were going to fund that from last year operating budget. So it's what we are planning for this year is to have that a deficiency and utilizing some of our reserve funding to try a different method and a different strategy within the marquee event before we look at having a conversation about any few increases or alternating, so that we're sure that we have multiple years of data to support this is what a change in programming in a larger scale programming orientation looks like. We've seen some costs go down in a couple areas to help support that, along with last year we never utilized that reserve funding based off of some other cost savings. And so we're essentially looking to reapprove utilizing reserve dollars to cover off the increased expense of a marquee event during orientation.
Awesome. And then I'm assuming CPI is already calculated into this as well.
So CPI is calculated there, and that will be hopefully part of the later motion today.
Awesome. Related revenue. Oh, wow, look at that. That's pretty good. Wow.
And then from a very nuanced perspective, our fiscal year is the same as WUSA as an organization from May to April. However, we look to try to plan our budget, at least historically we have, and we're evaluating what that looks like, but to be January to December, so that the students who are paying their orientation fee their inputs are going to the outputs of O-team hiring to event implementation, et cetera. And so it can stay as one cycle from that perspective. So we do some fun stuff within accounting, all legal and all above board, but do a little bit of prepaid expenses and things like that. But that's just kind of how the budgeting process works and why it's coming here and separate from a general WUSA budget package.
One more question.
Nobody else has got their hands up. You're the main question asker today.
I still think we should do this no matter what, but did we lose money on the concert? The revenue is 90,000 or something. I'm looking at, it's really good. Like, that is a huge.
Yeah, so I can't speak to some of the agreements that we had with some of our sponsors within that from a dollars perspective. What I will share is we anticipated to have that operating at a loss.
Okay.
Like it was a service driven with a bit of the rationale that orientation was bringing forward the majority of those fees that were being allocated, but it wasn't 100% of those costs that we were able to cover. So we looked to sell tickets similar to other institutions.
Yeah.
And so we're also looking at maybe alternate pathways of what ticket sales and things like that look like for this year to try something a little different.
And as there's no more questions, I will say, okay, never mind. Beautiful.
Alex.
I have a question for Brian. I think you cleared this up already. That deficit was left over from the 218 last year. Deficit in the event.
When you say, of the total orientation budget. So it's not just specifically related to that one line. We look at the budget as a whole suite. And so some faculties in their programming had some underspends. We had some cost savings in other areas that we didn't anticipate from some rental pieces. And so then that reduced, along with a handful of students who opted out of fee and then actually paid when they got to campus to enter into the orientation programming, some of those revenues as well.
And then last question for me, just about the first year fare costing around $4,000. Is that the entire thing? Like,
That's not the first. The first year fare is like
I had a stroke, my bad.
Yeah, you're good.
Martin's welcome. We put it.
Yes.
Thought of the wrong thing, my bad.
I got, okay. I have those back in my mind.
Orientation week is like when faculties programs, they're all.
Orientation is first year that exists essentially
Weekly.
to the Saturday night of the first week on campus. So it's Labor Day weekend typically, and then it covers 3 days of classes historically, depending on the schedule falls. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of the first week, and then Friday night programming and Saturday programming. And so things like Black and Gold Day game, historically we did like a Monte Carlo night, a dance party night, headphone disco, a bunch of different events, but those are all specifically for first years with their wristband. And then the following week is where we're welcoming for all students, not just first years.
But the concert was.
Isn't that packed
The
in?
concert was actually orientation led. But this was the first year that we allowed integration with upper year students, which is where we sold tickets. Yeah, and tried to use that as an event to also say like, hey, first years, don't be scared of upper years because you're gonna have to live with them for the next 3 years and you're gonna be one of them. You might as well have the celebratory moment of coming to campus with the entire campus community as well.
And would you do that same thing for next year, or would you keep it for welcome week or separate for orientation, or would you combine it?
Yeah, the plan right now is to have that actually look at solely within the orientation week. And we're looking at a date change based off availability and a couple other programming pieces to continue on the momentum that we had from last year.
Okay.
Last question. I know you spoke to it already about the marquee event. I know you talked about reshifting it, reassessing it. Do you still like foresee like a concert event being held or complete shit?
That would be our plan for 2025 orientation.
Yes.
Won't comment, like, we don't have anything secure. We are working in that pathway. What we're kind of at a challenge with is costs. They continue to rise from rentals and also performer contracts. But we are trying to continue that in a pathway forward.
Thank you.
How many do you take in? I don't know, but you gotta figure it. So that's the conversation, you guys. So Brian, how many intake students, like what's the participation rate in orientation right now? How many of the eligible folks actually purchase and participate within the orientation?
Above 90%, probably.
That's almost everybody.
Yeah.
And then we saw data from SSO that the more events that people attended, the higher satisfaction they had with orientation.
Yeah.
Quick question for you. I know, and I'm all for this. Let me just say, okay, good, God bless.
Thursday.
Four questions, and it's a good time to ask it. Recently, I don't know, we were passing data to student success office and so on. Part of the conversation was like, our students have a lower satisfaction than other faculties for orientation. Is there some type of look into that? I know a lot of it is faculty dominated, and I guess believe me, I looked into it, I get how difficult it is. But is there anything we're doing to try to look into that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say specifically by a faculty perspective. One piece that we're undergoing is the new student transition review, which is helping outline, re-clarify, and also set the same consistent standards across all faculties of who's delivering what programming and based on what outcomes at which time. And so that starts with faculty ready days for summer of when folks all the way up until their first 6 weeks on campus, with our hyper focus being faculty ready days and orientation week. What that will help yield us is a more synchronized approach to outcome attainment. And then we can once we have those results and we've done a better job from the programming alignment, we're going to be able to go in on a deeper basis on per faculty or per program perspective.
Oh,
That's food.
my God, that is the food. Eh?
I have more about faculty, which I having gone through some discussions, actually probably we can have this one offline. But it's gonna be more that I think we don't have to, these can be parallelized somewhat, particularly in some of the learning lessons for some faculties that I was engaged with this year. So having actually gone between a lot of different faculty programming during the week and then heard feedback as well from some faculty members, meeting actual faculty for once. It was interesting then to hear some of the process improvement that probably can be pulled off without actually needing any specific resources. But I think we can take that offline. So yeah, that's fine.
Does the budget also include like OT and honorarium for like the heads as well?
Yes.
It does, right?
So under schedule of expenses, it's under staffing and administrative expenses. And it's full-time staffing, full-time, part-time staff, and honorary. Some of those yellow numbers we're waiting on final bills and things like that to come through for the year, but yes, the budget is reflected in what we're planning for.
Is there really a banquet and a gift for OT
No,
and staff appreciation?
it's a legacy term that we use. It's an appreciation dinner.
So
That costs money.
There's a lot of there's a lot of people around the table. The faculty has, four has people, 4 OTs. And there's a staff member supporting each OT. Plus we have more than one staff member here with WUSA, so we have a central team. Like it gets quite large quite quickly. And they're a multi-term as well from an appreciation perspective.
Yeah.
Those roles, it's not just sort of one term. We carry them over at 3 terms.
budgets and operations and
What?
faculties have people and
Professional development. Yeah. Professional development includes things like, we're part of a new student transition, word that I'm looking for, network expertise group association is the word that I'm looking for.
I'm sorry.
So we're a part of something called NODA. And then our staff work with other staffs across North America at that conference to chat about what best practices. So that would be partly professional development, along with historically we have in our May session, and we're actually hosting it this weekend upcoming, is we are hosting the student component of NODA, where student leaders from across North America come together to share programming ideas, swag ideas, outcome-based approaches, things like that. And so that will help benefit the O team themselves. So we have a staffing component to that from a full-time perspective, but also I think this weekend we have up to 25 or 30 O team members attending that in person.
Where's the first aid training?
First aid.
Sorry, that was a terrorist.
It's in here. I went over it. 34, line 34 first aid for up to 31 team members.
We only do OT.
For our O team and
Because there's also leader.
But they have to get it on their own though. They don't.
It's often.
no, there's a split, and I'm not sure where that's highlighted in the budget, but it is there.
But it's there.
Yes.
Because I think that's actually
Yes.
No, I think for leaders.
or within it, it's every engineering student.
The school does. Like, the school has its own service, but.
It's
For
not,
various
we
reasons.
reimburse for that, for
Okay.
training, so that
Also-
That's fine on campus, Alex. And I got
Tags, red vest,
police check and all that.
Yeah.
binaries.
Any other high level questions about
I love
the budget?
Oh, sorry, I forgot we were voting on this.
Low level.
Let's wrap her up. Any other really important questions?
I can check any nuances off.
Okay.
Thank you.
While Ari attempts to put his hand in his bag, votes for the orientation fee for the year. Votes for. Richie, are you going for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still reading on it, my bad.
Sorry.
Later.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Votes against the orientation fee.
All put together, we have Good timing. Good timing.
And abstentions. Oh, sorry, that's unanimous. 4. Wonderful. Open your bags for a second.
Thank you, guys. Great. Look at the bags. That's the bag.
They had a goal. They're actually AI. They are, sourced and produced and this is not for board.
Amazon package, I like it, kind of fun, but I'm not going to do it.
Whether they manufacture.
It's not a real break. We'll be back in a second, Harry.
Actually, funny story, they kind of are.
Next week,
Yeah, I did because what's the name? What was the
But we're gonna open. Let's give them a second to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
no. Oh,
1 minute,
I'm good.
so you can open your food.
Well, you know.
I just wanted to see mine, I'm not eating.
Because everyone who wanted their bags open, open their bags.
Do you want to eat some?
You reimburse orientation heads when they get their first.
So depending on your role transition, then it's a lender, but they would get coordinators, we have head leaders.
But we're gonna start with. Oh, sorry, not we're starting. We're continue after our 1 minute recess to open loud bags. We're on 4.5. This is the motion from Jeff and Teresa. Jeff is not here. Teresa, do we have a seconder for Teresa's motion? Alex is seconding. Before we get started, what are we going to do about conflict?
You could, I would argue they could debate, but you can't vote on it.
I think the only people that are,
They should be able to vote on lean are
Like legally speaking, who else is not?
because the rest of them have financial stakes associated with the outcome.
How are they gonna vote?
Okay, so it's just me and Aria who are able to vote, is what we're saying.
Oh.
On this motion. Passing
Could I advise Don's advice?
Yes, you can. Let's ask Don.
Maybe explain the issue to Don and see what he thinks.
Okay, so Don, the motion at hand involves setting the honoraria for the month for not everyone on board, but most members of board to be based off of the hours that they were supposed to record over the past 3 weeks. Which, yeah, it changed the amount that they would normally receive. Which, unless they are the officers, so myself and Aria, that will definitely have pecuniary implications.
And is it significant?
Yeah, it can be quite significant for people, yes.
So generally, when there's a conflict of interest, it goes back to the board to make a decision about whether how to proceed, whether or not they would have a vote, and the board can decide because of circumstances or numbers of quorum that people could be involved in discussion. Or excluded from discussion, included in vote, excluded from vote. So the board as a whole generally decides how to proceed. And in this kind of a situation, because of numbers, it makes sense that the board could decide everybody has a vote and it just carries forward. But I think the really important question is how significant is the dollar value, and therefore should it have some other alternative kind of direction?
how much is the donor value that you're gonna do, you know?
Could impact your entire honorarium, right? So at least $1,000 a person, and at a student's level, that could be significant.
This is my recommendation. Debate, but voting will just be me and Nick, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to hear your opinions, but I'm saying board members general. But
You first.
is it appropriate for directors to do both?
No, you go first.
Oh, Archie.
I think, yeah, I can only speak for myself. Like I am going on board starting May as well. So yeah, I think it does definitely impact us in terms of, I think we have the whole establishment that if the motion gets passed, that we would start in May. So for it to start as of April, it's kind of like a sudden thing, but it's not also, it's kind of like gives more responsibility.
I think that's moving on from the discussion that we're having before we get to the motion itself, which is how do we proceed with governance-wise, the discussion?
Talk about it, or can you vote on it?
Yes, should,
Oh,
because I don't know your realm, but say you've done 20 hours, this could be $500 out of your pocket, right? Should you be able to vote on it? I'll let you speak, Teresa. Please keep it to not the content itself, but just the ideas. Teresa.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, like the reason why like we felt that it coming to board might be prudent and for directors to vote on is because we were hearing some of the sentiment behind the AGM motion was that, oh well, like this is coming after like the current batch of directors is already on their way out, and that was like a thorn in student side. Like they had a bit of an optics issue with that, and so the opportunity here, from what I understand, is to kind of let the directors, should they vote in support, be able to stand up and say like, no, like this isn't like, you know, us getting the last bag before we leave. Like we genuinely do believe in the system if it passes. I can hear myself. That's kind of crazy. Okay, sorry.
I'm thinking we're still back to Arya's comment here. We'll do discussion. And then me and Arya are the only voting members. Unless we make a bunch of amendments, but amendments can go anywhere. All right, well, is anyone like against that idea where we'll let you guys talk about it, but then, because I've only looked at one person's hours and it's Jeff, and he's not here. I haven't looked at the rest of your hours yet. So with that in mind.
Can I send it to you?
No, like explicitly no, like that might change my vote.
Oh.
Yeah.
But Jeff's not here. So
You don't understand anything.
I don't understand. Mike.
Sorry, I just thought of one more thing.
Okay.
The documents that I will be submitting. Sorry, I'm trying to avoid echoes. Why am I echoing?
You're okay for us.
Yeah.
Okay. The documents I'll be submitting for payment next week are not relevant to these honorariums. Like these honorarium payments will come at the end of April. So in reality, you could tie this to people submitting on time for April's meeting, which has not happened yet. And that would be the honorarium period affected, the pay period affected. Because right now, the documents I'll be submitting tomorrow are only tied to the reports that were sent in the lead up to the May 4th meeting. March 4th meeting, sorry. So backdating this is very complicated.
A really opportune time to take noodles.
Mhm.
Arya has the next conversation, but he's chewing.
Oh.
So I'm filling time.
I'm back. Sorry. I would actually I would be more comfortable actually pushing this motion back to April. We could be the same wording. We could just wait to pay. Because it doesn't matter when you get your money, you're gonna get your money. It's a month delay. Seeing how AGM goes, and that would definitely play into it. because that, I think that's just a better approach. I'll personally be for favor of, and that also gives us time to make sure everybody actually reports their hours. And the fundamental challenge is like, how do we verify your hours? It's a really tough thing for us to decide here.
I'm going to suggest if we don't make an amendment, me and Aria are the only ones who vote. If you guys do make amendments, which we'll do amendments like normal, then as long as it's not retroactive, we all vote.
So right now, sorry, just so I understand, we're talking about just leaving this the way it is, and you guys vote.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if there are enough changes to make it so that it doesn't apply to the past, there will still be potential outcomes, but those are potential futures, and there are so many possibilities for the future that I'll move on. Jeff is here. I'm sorry, Jeff, I didn't notice you were here, which makes my life a little bit more difficult in trying to avoid being nice to you. But Jeff.
Hi. Quick question. Why are we in confidential session? What is the confidential nature that is being discussed?
I don't think we are in confidential.
Yeah.
Are we?
My apologies. I was misled.
Okay. We're not supposed to be.
No, I'm so sorry. I have wrong. I was told we were confidential.
That's on accident. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Does that sound like a plan? No changes, just me and Aria. Enough changes to make it future. We'll deal with it. All right. Now we're gonna actually start discussion. Teresa, you are currently the mover, so you have first dibs on speaking order.
I don't really have too much to add. I think I already kind of alluded to the intention here earlier in the motion details, which is that there was sentiment among students that were seeing this motion that the incoming board was kind of implicitly profiting from this because the change would be happening after their term had ended. So yeah, Jeff is actually the one who wrote the majority of this. I just kind of put my oar in because he was late. So if Jeff wants to say anything, he totally can.
Taking that as Teresa yielding her time to Jeff.
Sure, thanks. Hi all. A few notes I may have misinterpreted. Again, I'm sorry for being late. This is as currently written a one-time thing. There are no implications on the future. We've been talking about this for the past 2 months. Everyone here was told and is aware that we were doing this for this month. It was recommended by governance committee, and generally, I think this falls in line with the sentiment of what the board intended to do. Yeah, let me know your thoughts.
Then Alex, you were seconder, right? Before you take a bite.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I can speak to it like discussion was, but
Yeah, you have time now if you'd like it.
sure. So from what I did on this was because, yes, we were supposed to do this in February, and then I was one of the people who forgot. So I jumped on from March. That being said, though, I did start it on March 4th, so I'll have to go back, do my hours from the 26th to the 4th. But I did find it useful in keeping track of what I do. I didn't get the template, so it's on paper. But some difficulties I did find is like when you're, at least in my experience as a director, like your work is usually pretty small in the back end, but like you are all over the place because you are a student. You are very much working in a world where most everyone else is a full-time staff with usually regular hours. So you're sort of bouncing all over the place, right? Because if you're on an email chain and the conversation's ongoing, like you're just going to fire back and respond to that, or maybe pull open the doc you're working on and sidebar that while you're in class or whatnot. So it was kind of hard because everything is scattered, which is really different. So I'm sure maybe other people struggle with that too, when you're trying to do one thing and then you're trying to squeeze it all in. Yeah, exactly. Or seeing ed tech at 11 a.m. and I have class at 10:30. So Like stuff like that is very interesting in trying to work around, and I did struggle with it, but that's just me.
Aria.
I have a question. Has everybody recorded hours per time period proposed where the effect is taking place? Or has anybody not? Let's just put it this way. So I understand before.
Yeah, I'm still cobbling my timesheet together. It'll be done like really soon. Sorry.
I just have a question.
Archie.
I found it particularly difficult to like balance school and trying to commit to director booth timings wise. I was talking to this with Aria before lunch, but a lot of times school does get into conflict with my director booth. Like I'll finish school and then I'll sign up for a director booth, but then right after I have to either go to an office hour, or have to go meet with a TA or something, or I have to go meet with a group partner and stuff. And oftentimes I can't make that commitment to that director booth. Are there like kind of like not use, but like if we can't meet that quota, will we be penalized right away, or are we given warnings to that kind of like?
Is your question based off the current text?
Yeah, like.
Yes, you would need to be able to prove 40 hours within the time period. It did. So you're saying you would not have hit the 40 hours because of other obligations. You would be penalized for not hitting 40 hours.
Also, quick question. Is this going to be vetted in any way?
Yes, they have a vetting mechanism, which is that I'm supposed to personally cross-reference the hours with activities based off of people's reports.
That's too much for its role to do. There needs to be something else baked in.
It becomes my job.
That is actually ridiculously high level of time. Like, that hours we work. Even if the governance department, God bless you, as to on your staff. Look.
You don't want your staff should be getting involved in.
Give it to the governance advisors. Sandra, we'll pay you more. The capacity family will get so much money.
I'm just going to assume Ari is rattling.
I'm rattling. I'm vamping.
Sorry, that's the point, right? I don't think anyone really answered Arya's question, but I'm going to take the silence not as a positive, everyone recorded it, but rather it would be embarrassing to say you didn't.
Okay. But that means they get 0? Okay, that's what I need to understand that before I vote, right?
I don't know. Alice.
I discussed a little bit. I will. Oh, Jeff. No, Jeff, you go ahead.
Okay, I'll do Jeff then Alex then. Jeff.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so ideally this would have been like amended to the director reports, but everyone has until like, I think right now in the motion it says Friday to send them in. So there is allowance there. And I will also add, like, I totally get things we're busy. But we did send out like a call, and people looked at it, responded, asked questions on March 8th. So it's totally fine if you haven't done it yet, but you have some time until the end of the week to get that in.
Alex, do you have anything?
I was gonna say, just as we started to talk about this, like the concerns over the pay, it sort of start to fade away from me a little bit. Don't know how to say that properly. I don't know.
You can vote.
I'm not voting on it.
You want to do your ballot?
It doesn't even like. What's it about? It's so obvious. There's no world where.
No, but me and you will know because by definition, but then.
It's not point. It's like there's no point. You know what I mean? No, but listen, if one person votes against, instead of voting.
Yes.
So it's
If it's a tie, the motion fails.
yeah, it's a time and motion fails, right? So it doesn't matter.
For answering the question.
Actually, don't. I'm still thinking I'm not to vote.
You're still thinking?
No, I'll just whatever. Let's just do it.
No. Hey, can the rest of you take like a 5-minute thing while me and Arya come back and then we'll tell you this whole
like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
How about we go to the other room?
We're gonna go. Yeah, we go to the other room to talk for a second.
Yeah.
As in to make the vote, but also because we need a minute to think. Okay.
Do you want to take a recess now then, or?
Oh, no, let's do the recess after we let you know.
You both bring me so much joy.
I already know that. Yes.
What you get, Esther? Again, we were muted.
Me and Arya think that there wasn't enough time for people to be able to review the motion beforehand, and etc. So we don't think this makes sense for us to actually discuss at this meeting or to decide on at this meeting.
Sorry, may I interject?
Yeah.
Not trying to be difficult, but the only people voting on the motion are you two.
Yes.
Yes.
There wasn't enough time for you two to review it.
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So be it.
Need a little bit more.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess that's like not a thing, right? In Robert's rules, we amended the agenda to include this. Like, you can't do that, I guess. And if you are trying to do that, I would ask the board to vote on. I mean, yeah, if that is your ruling, then I would challenge the chair.
Okay. We're just
But
saying.
I mean,
we like
there's
to...
no precedent for what you're doing, and
That's
it's
fair. Ish. Because yeah, if we wanted to vote to table, we'd actually have to bring it
I
to
also
everybody.
acknowledge that this wasn't submitted with ideal notice, but I will say that every member was aware that this was coming to the board as early as March 8th. The exact nature of which has been discussed for the past 3 months. It's not exactly like a bombshell out of the blue. Everyone knew exactly what was coming, the contents of it, the spirit of it, and it's an ongoing issue that we've been discussing for months.
We should not have admitted to agenda. We should have pushed it to April.
Yeah.
Because then it would have been no problem.
You're going back out apparently.
Okay, let's go talk.
They'll be back.
Yeah, we'll read.
Yeah, what should we unmute?
I'm muted.
Yeah.
Hello. We're unmuted, right? Yeah, okay, good. So the result of our secret ballot has been that the motion fails. But the explicit note is, this is your official warning about next month. Whereas this is your explicit warning
point
about next
of order.
Jeff.
I'm sorry. I would condemn myself if I was sitting in your shoes. But did the board vote to like allow this to be a secret ballot of just the officers?
You don't.
Or was that a
need to-
determination, right?
No. So you guys are all in conflict.
We're
So-
not in conflict.
Yes, you are.
Not by the definition Mr. Hughes would give.
I think even by that definition, you're still in conflict because it affects your pay, your compensation. This conversation
But
is around
in
your
this case,
compensation. so-
there is no pecuniary benefit, right? We are voting to whether or not to decrease.
That is true. No matter what happens,
Oh,
it will go down.
fair point.
It is a strict decrease. Again, I'm so sorry. This stems from me not being present earlier in the meeting, and I apologize for making a mess of this.
So maybe Don can clear this up. Don, do you think what's your professional opinion?
So I'm not exactly sure how kind of this new hour calculation compares to your existing income. But as I mentioned before, when this is not an unusual situation like city council or a board that is paid, that they will often identify the fact that they are in conflict of interest, but will still move forward for a broad board vote to make a decision. The board decides as a whole how to proceed. So if the board is in conflict of interest because they are increasing their pay, it still falls to the board to make the decision about how much or when or how it's going to take place. The really big issue is what's the public relations here? How do you explain it to the broader public? That's more of the risk for your reputation, but it's not uncommon for a board that gets remuneration to identify the fact that they are in conflict of interest and then move forward to make the decision. Does that make sense?
Okay, so the board gets to vote to choose if they want to vote or not.
I think that's not necessarily appropriate, but I'm willing to let board decide on whether or not they get to vote. But I think that this is circular and inappropriate.
Yeah, well, that's
Jeff.
what it will come to.
Sorry. I did have a question for Mike. Is the honorary payment that's going out after this board meeting, is that the final one? Or like it was my impression, at least, that this was the last chance we had.
Paid in arrears.
Oh, that one. Let's see.
I don't know. We could just hold.
Thank you, sorry. So the one that is going out after this meeting will be paid out next Friday. Sorry for the in the weeds. There is still a late April one, which will be paid out 4 weeks from next Friday. So that is the one you could attach this to, and it gives everybody I'd say a more fair shot, but I don't feel like having that much input on that because I could also build it into the form for that last April meeting if you would like.
And Jeff, just for your context as well, we did have the discussion that if there was an amendment to make this not apply retroactively, then we would not consider board members in conflict. But sorry, I interrupted you, Jeff.
Wait. Well, that is a really weird. Apologies. That is a weird determination to come to, since the like I don't see how that changes it. But yeah, I guess my what I was going to say is, if board members would prefer, I wouldn't be opposed to making it just for April. But I guess I don't see. Yeah, I'd be fine with it, not in support of it, but I'm just leaving it up to the board here. I don't think the board should be voting on whether or not they should be voting on this. Like, the board just should be voting on this.
Okay, so the best next move, so we can actually get out of deadlock, is board should vote. If only officers can vote on this, that's just that democracy goes away. And then we proceed from there. Is that a fair assessment? If somebody wants to motion for that. Like the or then the standing motion exists, right?
I think this is an overruling the chair. So if they, like, because I disagree with Jeff on this,
Okay.
but I'll let board make a motion to overrule me. They went in 2/3. Because I think Jeff is incorrect, that this definitely is pecuniary, and many people will vote based off their own personal financial benefit. Because the negative impacts on others is similar, but not the same as positive impacts to yourself. So.
I vote yes.
But if we can get two people to start a motion to overrule the chair, which I would motion. You're gonna support Jeff in an overruling the chair?
Jeff, are you motioning that? I actually don't think the directors should vote. But the rest of the board has what I have said.
Somebody will be out in 1 minute.
Well, there's no motion. So I don't, so the ruling stands then, that is what I'm hearing currently. Line 1, so it's 5 minutes, I just saw that now.
Is there data? Do you send this out?
Let's give it a minute.
So
There's no
question. Okay, never mind, doesn't matter.
like what's happening. There's no.
If no one's gonna make a motion, I'm gonna make a motion.
Alex, you're making a motion.
I will make a motion to overrule the chair.
Is anyone going to second Alex's motion to overrule the chair to allow non-officers voting on this one?
I'd like to second. For some reason, I still
There you
have.
All right. I vote abstain. I don't think I get to vote on this one. All right. It's by the way, it's now your job to take over for the next few minutes.
Well, God bless. Okay. So what you abstain as in you're abstaining on the vote as well, Mike?
Oh, like a vote over.
Yeah, you're right. You don't care again. Okay, cool. Welcome to audience sharing time. So is there any debate? Folks want to have, Alex, you started the motion. Anything you want to say?
I think Jeff makes a valuable point. We should get to talk about this. We should get to vote on it.
Jeff, is there anything you'd like to say? I'm going to take that as a no. Is there anything anybody wants to say? Any speaking?
For this vote to go through, I think all board members should be present because it affects every board member.
I'm sorry?
For voting on it, as board directors, like I think every board director.
Everybody gets to vote on this motion. Right? We'll see.
Oh, everyone?
Yeah, everybody gets, except Nick.
I'm sorry, are you trying to say every board member, like everyone on the board?
Oh, they should be here because
Well, we can't control that. Like forum, so like you know what I mean? We can drag them in.
they can deflect. They come back and say, "Oh, why it's their fault."
Yeah. Okay, Jay's on the next.
Yeah, I have a question. Don't we have a GM motion about this as well? Don't we have a GM motion that asks the director honor room will be applied based on the 10 hours?
Yeah, yes, there's a GM motion, but this particular motion affects current board members, while that motion only affects future board members. If that answers the question.
Okay. I thought my understanding was the motion tomorrow will also apply to this very current board as well for the remaining month.
Well, I'll have Esther check.
I don't think so. The way it's worded, it doesn't.
Oh, Don, maybe you want to add something?
If the motion tomorrow at the AGM fails, and you pass this motion tonight, would you want to make it contingent that the motion passes tomorrow if it is approved tonight?
Oh, that's great. That's great. I would like that very much, actually. I would like that very much.
$1 million idea, Don.
That's a great idea. Like, that's great. That's what we're trying to get at before the show.
You're wrong, though.
So how would I go about, I can't, we're in the middle of this. This has to fail first before I can introduce that. Well, yeah. Okay, anyone else wants to talk on the current motion that we're discussing, which is overruling the chair? Okay, Mike.
Oh, sorry, disregard. I have an unrelated idea for later.
Okay, so now we're going to vote on this current motion, which is 2/3. This will be 2/3. So I'll start with all abstaining on this motion.
Sorry, like overruling the chair's decision on what? On the secret ballot, or just his decision on the directors cannot vote on this?
It's on the decision that directors cannot vote on this. Jeff, you have something to say before we vote?
Yeah, I guess it's completely unconscionable that we would hold a vote that affects the entire board and disallow the board to vote. Like, this is not some kind of out of line motion where the board is voting to quadruple its own pay or whatnot. Like, we are elected by students to represent, to oversee the corporation, and we can't do that if we can't vote. Like, that seems wildly out of line to me. Yeah, I mean, really great advice there from Don that helped me better understand like how this is normally managed as other similar bodies that govern their own pay. But I think what Don said makes a lot of sense, and is the only sensical ruling from which we can move forward. It doesn't make sense for just the officers to determine on behalf of the board. They do not have any special privileges that the board does not.
Okay, nice one, title. Anyone else want to say anything before I will take that as no. So I'm going to call the vote.
Was there,
yes,
sorry, Jeff moved to overrule the chair. Was there a seconder? I just want to make
It
sure
was
from my own
Alex.
notes.
I
Thank
think
you.
Alex moved to overrule the chair and Jeff seconded the motion.
Thank you, sorry.
Awesome. And with that, I'm going to call abstains first. Anybody abstaining on this vote? I'm recording myself here. Good. Now all those, and Emma and Jay. Okay, good. All those in favor, please raise your hand. I have, okay, 3, 4. Awesome. And then all those against, which is, there's no one left. And that's, did we have 2/3? I don't think. No, we didn't. So motion fails. Welcome back. And I would actually say the thing that Don said is a great thing, and we should change it to make that the thing.
Well, let's vote. Oh, we can't vote on it though, right? Because now that's been removed.
Wait a minute. There's things we can wait a minute now. There's always things to do. Nick, I think that's a good thing to do.
Business or Isaac is the same topic, but with edits, right? That's where we're at.
Yeah.
So the suggestion from Don is we reopen discussion and immediately tack on, before doing anything else, the comment that if it fails tomorrow, this decision also fails.
Or if it passes, this decision also passes. How about that? Right? Like just follow the AGM precedence, which makes
Just so actually, we're saying that instead of having any of that, we're going to say that depending on, let me find the item actually itself as well, because it's probably worthwhile. Depending on the vote, so we will be voting on depending on the vote for the action for the tomorrow. Can we even do that?
Well, why not?
What no?
It's
to the next.
Having the outcome be contingent on of. Okay, sure.
Why not?
All right. Let me actually find the correct piece. So instead of discussing Jeff and Teresa's motion, now we are discussing that Jeff and Teresa's motion will be considered to have passed. Should item, where is it? Should item 3.5, is that right? 3.5 at the annual members meeting be approved, and the same is also true if it fails tomorrow. Do I understand that correctly?
I think Jeff has it wrong.
Cool. Let's throw it over to Jeff.
Sorry, I have a point, but before that, point of order. What was the vote tally on the previous motion to appeal the chair?
Can I get a vote tally, please?
James abstained. Maricini,
Because
Jeff.
Okay, so the motion to overrule the chair passed because according to Robert's rules, to appeal the chair only requires a simple majority.
I don't know. You guys clarify between.
Check.
I do not want to have to appeal your. I don't want to meta this, but yeah, read Robert's rules.
Have a chat.
Okay. This is becoming so confused. All right, let's check that first. We have, I don't want to say the precedent has been 2/3 before. Like, this is going to mess up a lot of things. This is not 2/3. I'm just going to say that right now. We ran some votes. Like, we have done this before. Huh? Yes. Or abstains. What you're saying? Three abstains. Yes. 4. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're looking at it. I mean, I'm hoping Don and Esther are looking that up for us or have something. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Who said board meetings are no longer exciting? This is still exciting. That's fair. This is not like on the edge of the shit.
Sorry. I don't.
So what my AI is saying, the motion to appeal is most often used to question the ruling of a chair on a point of order. An appeal is not allowed when the chair rules on a question about which there cannot possibly be two reasonable options. But in this case, there can be. So then it suggests appeal can be allowed, but it doesn't give whether it's 2/3 majority or simple majority.
What's the bylaws?
A simple majority is required to overrule the chair.
Okay, so it's simple majority. So then it does. Okay, so we're gonna go back now for a minute.
That's UWSA. The reference is the UWSA.ca rules of order at a glance.
That seems, but they might not use exactly the same as we do. Should I go grab the copy up the stairs?
Do we use that? Is there a particular standard we use? That if that's it, I mean, I might take Don's word for it. I'm just gonna. Where I'm sitting.
I did a Google search on Robert's rules overrule the chair.
Does it say simple majority?
Yeah.
All right. Did we actually hit a simple majority? I thought it was 4-3.
Abstains. So 4-0-3. Yeah. That's a majority. It's okay. Okay, so all right. We're just gonna go back if everyone's okay with it. I'm chair right now.
Okay.
So chair has been overruled.
Yay.
We're back at the standing original motion. Jeff and Teresa submitted. And all members of the board can now discuss, vote, and do what they want. Nick, you are chair now again. And I would like to amend that motion ever so quickly. Because I think that will just pass unanimously and we won't be here.
Ariane, you're recognized first.
If it is friendly, I would like to amend that motion to be tied to what we discussed, the AGM, like Don what is it suggested, and I think that's a very good way of making sure it's a standard across everybody.
I guess to the mover, it's not. It may be friendly, but it's not friendly because I'd like some discussion.
Okay, cool.
So I'll second Arya's amendment, and I'd like to be added to the speaking order.
Okay, Jeff, go, because you're actually just first on speaking order.
Oh, okay. So I did actually consider this, and I think in the original motion, there's a line that talks about it. I wasn't sure, honestly, like I could probably see either way. It probably makes sense to tie it to that. But one of the considerations, which led me to actually original motions say we should do this either way is on two levels. One, morally, and the other, logistically. And I think the logistical problem is the bigger one. If the motion ends up amended on the floor to look very radically different from what it currently is, it becomes dicey then, like whether or not the original motion has passed. And I'd rather not send our governance department into a bit of chaos on that determination. I think, well, it is nice in principle and maybe makes sense. And I wouldn't totally mind it if everyone is strongly for it. That is something to consider. But the other moral part of it is, if this is something we believe in, something we've talked about for a while, and like the principles don't change tomorrow, no matter what. And so nothing, like the only fact that really changes is how much utility it has, the incoming board. But yeah, so in other words, if people are all for it, I'm down. But we should maybe add some wording to help in case it does get amended in some form. I guess if people think that's enough of a headache to consider. Otherwise, I'm fine with supporting this or letting it die.
Alex, question for Jeff. If it gets super amended tomorrow, would you prefer that it lives or then dies? Thinking about it.
Can you repeat that, please, Alex?
I can repeat it. Jeff, just a question for you, Jeff. If it gets amended tomorrow, like very amended, would you rather see the motion die or live? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't know. I guess the argument for not doing this if the motion dies is so that we don't, like, I guess the argument is that utility isn't as high. I have no idea what the motion will look like after it gets amended tomorrow, which is like why I'm just raising that issue for a consideration. Personally, I think if this is something we believe in, there's no real reason to veer the course. But yeah, like we have no idea what it'll look like tomorrow. One of I guess the argument for making this amendment again is utility, and so I don't know how much utility it would have in that case. So yeah, I think, yeah, I'm repeating myself at this point, so that'll be it.
And something B, I thought that motions that are on the agenda cannot be significantly changed. They need to maintain and continue to be in the spirit of what the original motion is, and it can't be like flipped on its.
Oh, that does sound familiar from my hold.
So
I think that tomorrow, that if they're like, we're gonna gut this and replace it with something else, we'd say no.
Right, because we put it out on the agenda, we've had people come to vote and did it, so
Okay.
it can't materially.
I think it'll be so important to pull that up wherever it says that, to have it ready for two.
Okay.
Not to give that book to anybody.
Alex, one thing, the reason why I asked Jeff that is, at least from what I see it, is if it were to get amended, which we're going to figure out right now if that can even happen. If it were, then I think it should probably die. Because
interesting.
I think that makes more sense. No, because if you lower the hours, or I'm just thinking two options, if you lower or raise it, let's just assume then we're already disconnected from what we originally decided on. That's just my thoughts. That's my 2 cents trying to work through that. I'm just thinking.
Okay, so do we know for a fact? So we know for a fact it can't get amended out of spirit, right? Like that's.
Yeah, like that. So I mean, in theory, if people were very, very careful, I'm sure they could lawyer their way through everything.
Okay.
But
in practice, we
no, like we're not going to let them change emotion entirely.
So with knowing that, I would be for passing this amendment to the motion.
Is the amendment friendly?
I don't think so. I think
okay.
I think Jeff said that's the discussion.
Got it.
Right now.
All right then. With that in mind, we're at the point. Are we at the point to take the vote on the amendment, which is actually kind of gutting most of this motions, be resolves that and putting them into a separate section? Complicated, but the idea being that the be it further resolves that are now all contingent on the result of tomorrow's vote. Right? That's probably a more simpler way to make an amendment. That be it resolved that as long as motion 3.5 passes, this. Be it further resolved that as long as 3.5 passes. Be it further resolved that as long as 3.5 passes.
Yeah, in spirit, I think we're on the same page.
Okay. Is that reasonable? What's the solution? Okay. Cool. Any further discussion before the amendment? Seeing none, we'll take the vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment of making the be it resolves contingent on tomorrow's vote. It's not unanimous, but it's almost. All abstaining on the amendment. Jeff abstains and Mancini abstains, and that is every member of board. So none are against. So we're back to the top of motion now with the contingency in place. We've already had discussion. Is there any new discussion to be had with the amendment in place? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the main vote. All in favor of the motion as amended. Okay. All abstentions on the motion as amended? I think it's just Jay. And all against, I think it's just me. Motion carries. With that, it took longer than I was hoping it for. We'll do general reports, and then I'm going to suggest we're going to take like a 5-10 minute break and then go into confidential. Let us begin with Aria, because yours is shorter. Do you have a report that you submitted?
Yeah, we did a lot. Oh, you know what? I brought this. We did a lot of stuff. Ask me if you have any questions. Town and Gown all just finished. Soon to finish.
I like your profit.
Thank you. The food insecurities piece of report that they did, and we'll have that shared soon. And the international one is to be displayed in June. So those two finally, 2 years, I finished them. I said no more, let's end this. So those are done, and those reports should come out and take a look at this. This is also the city. We know racism was a big deal in the city, and we're seeing hate crimes and so on. This is an action plan I got from the city of what they're going to do to address it. So we're talking to them for a little bit about that. So hopefully this is something folks are interested. Come and read it or message me. I'll send it to you so they have a real action plan there. Other stuff, a lot of, again, same old in the report. One thing I want folks to be aware of in minutes is that for the CASA motion in AGM, I have ever so slightly amended it, and I'll amend it on the floor to change a couple of details. The be it resolved is the same. Nothing changes in practice, but some timeline adjustments. So it is clear. And that's it. Everything for me. If there's anything else, ask me.
Okay. I didn't submit a written report, and I'll be respectful to Marvin and say that the only sort of priority things for me has been that we've finished the Ombuds Office MOU. We signed the GRT extension. Both those are locked in. And other than that, you can ask me questions, but I think those are the only two actually important ones. And I didn't submit a written report. Suzanne. Oh, sorry, Teresa, you have questions?
Oh, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to share a piece of news because I haven't submitted my report yet, but I'll just wait until if anybody else has anything to say. Wait, is this not my time? Like, should I just share this later informally in the board chat? Sorry.
Just go.
Okay, well, that was kind of a lukewarm reaction, but in the co-op world, I'm really excited to share something that we ran on when we were like back last year was reviewing the co-op cycle timelines and potentially looking at implementing things like negotiation periods to help students avoid things like renegs and the harsh consequences that come with them. And yesterday, I just had Jay and I just had her connect with Gabrielle, who is our CEE liaison, and she told us that they are actually initiating some student consults to explore that, which is really, really exciting news because we have been working towards this for some time. So obviously no results and like nothing's guaranteed to happen yet, but yeah, really happy about it. And I want you guys to say good job, Teresa, please, and good job, Jay. And good job all the other people that came
Great
before this
job.
to help push this. Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's all.
All right. Sorry for being so lackluster. That's nice to hear. Back to Suzanne.
Public report, I'm not really gonna go over anything in particular.
Sorry.
Marketing and advocacy are there. I just will highlight that there's a customer service policy and a report that Brian was kind enough to create for you folks in response to some of the questions that came up regarding our response and customer service policy. So yeah.
Listen,
Are there anyone has any questions? But if you haven't had a chance to look at it, please do so and send questions if you have any.
Okay. Any questions for Executive Director? Okay. I'm seeing none. We're gonna jump into confidential. I'm also suggesting that this is a good time to take a 10-minute pause. So 8:40. And one will be back, but you don't have to wait and then have it happen afterwards.
Heading like
Yeah, but confidential was big today.
confidential was very big.
The question is, am I going to make it to the pool in time? I think the answer is yes.
You sure?
I think I can make it.
We have to adjourn. Will we adjourn?
We have to,
Because it's done.
or because we're waiting to be back in public so I can. Thank you. Hey, Nush. The important thing for now is that we took the vote on increases to WUSA fees for CPI related reasons, as well as making the explicit note that for things that we don't have control over as directly, like dental and health plan admin premiums and the GRTU pass over time, those are not necessarily decided by us, but the ones that are decided by us, they're all CPI. And the other stuff has to be approved elsewhere, like Aria's CASA fee, which will be done tomorrow. With that, we have no more business, so we'll adjourn. Thank you very much. That's all the motions during confidential. That would just
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Very good. Thanks a lot.
Have a
Good
good
seeing
night,
everybody
folks.
again. Bye-bye now.
Hello.
Thanks, Don.